pocket because it has that inspection hole, so you can see that little V that's on there. So also, if the head was milled a lot, the chain stretches over time, or the head mill will cause the cam to be retarded. So you have to take that into consideration. Cam tower shims are made if you go like over 15, get one. You can stack them up to 3, I believe. I'm not positive because my other head, I had it shaved 15 on both sides, so it was a total of 30. And I got that from a machine shop, and that was, I think, a Goodson head shaver shims. They make them for Mercedes too. It's pretty much a clone of that motor anyway. So I will set this on number 2 position. Get my fuel pump eccentric. I always run stock manual fuel pumps because I run carburetors. I don't run no regulator. Also, if you do, you take your fuel pump off. Make sure it has that plastic spacer in there so that arm doesn't get slammed and ruin the arm and fuel pump. Also, if you have a gasoline smell in your oil, your diaphragm's bad in your fuel pump and gas is getting squirting in there somehow, so make sure you don't have a crankcase fire and blows up on you. So I put this on and make sure that since the dial's lined up at 12, you got your V notch lined up with that dash. The lobes are in the intake 10, exhaust 2. That's it. What I do next is grab the appropriate chain. L16, 18 chains are the same size. There's a bright link here and a bright link here. So what I'll do, L20s are two links longer. Grab the chain where the bright link's on top. Your bright link will be on the right side bottom. Grab your chain, slip it down. Should take this, so I guess they call this an oil slinger. I don't know what's the real correct terminology. I don't have the book right here, but that keeps the oil going past the front cover. With the bright link, since I use number 2 right here on 12 o'clock position on this dowel, I put the bright link on number 2 in the 2 o'clock position. Wrap the chain around. This is a little bit hard here. You gotta get that on there. What you do is you take your bright link and put it on that dimple down there in your crank. It should be about a 315 position on like a small arm of a clock. And here's where you might have to use your all-purpose tool, usually a hammer. Shouldn't pound on it that much like I'm doing, but might have to turn the cam tuss a little bit. There it goes. Okay, we got the bright link on that dimple down here. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's a little dimple down there. Bright link on the dimple, and we got the other bright link on the dimple there. Since I turned the cam forward just a little bit, I'm going to turn it back. Maybe turn it forward again. This is the little bit of a tricky part. This here is how the chain gets off a link. Tighten that back up. So that's enough. So what we'll do, put the tight side guide on, and since you put this bolts in the correct spot so you don't lose them, the tight side will just have a lock washer and a bolt, which is a 10mm head. I usually tighten this up right now, tighten it per spec. I don't think it's much, 7 pounds I believe it is, but look in your book. I use a removable thread locker, so it won't come out, but it won't get stuck in there either if you're trying to pull it out. Just for in case vibration loosens those bolts up. The racers, they drill it out and use a bigger bolt. I'm so good I can just do it by feel. Next we get the slack side guide. Make sure the bright links right there and right there. If you got it on the bright, you got the Japanese chain, Beck Garnley or importedcartparts.com. They sell all the Japanese chains. OS Gaiken, Tsubaki is another one. You can't go wrong if you got the right chain. Make sure you order the right chain. And it's real easy. The slack side guide has that oblong 8. You'll pick the far one on the left. Route this up in there. You'll put these on. Remember, this has a washer, lock washer, then a bolt. Why? I do not know. Get that down. Do a little adjustment here. Tighten that there. Now we'll do this loose here. Make sure. Now putting a tensioner in, just a little bit tricky, but it's not all that tough. Just make sure you have a clean area, preferably a garage. Also, there's a little oiler down here on the right above the sprocket. Sometimes if you have a loose chain, the chain will wiggle them and tear them up. You can get them new at Nissan. The Z cars don't run them, but you get them new. They're only a couple of bucks. There's a made in Japan OS Gaiken tensioner. This has rubber. Some are plastic. Don't get the Taiwan ones. I always have a couple in stock in case you head gasket go bad. You can just get a new one. This one only had like, I went around a block. That's how many miles are on this one before I figure out the front cover cavitated. So you push that spring in there. Like I said, the racer ones use those, they have that retainer so it keeps them. So those guys that use the block, they're better than I am. There we go, we got the, get this good in there. Tensioner in. My ratchet going here. Since these are small bulges, please do not over tighten them. If they bust, you'll have to take it into a machine shop to do it right. Some people, headers busted, they think they can get away with it, but it's not going to last long. The car is going to be in the back of the yard, as many Datsuns are. I think Datsun motors are better than the Toyota motors myself. The Toyota owners tend to keep their cars longer and take care of them. So here's the next trick. What we will do is tighten this up here to get that nice smooth arc. So what I usually do is use a butt of a hammer or something soft and get your ratchet ready. You'll squeeze this tensioner in so it butts up. You want all that slack out. So if you get a real good motor, this thing ain't gonna come loose. You take the top side and make, because you squeeze the top, this tensioner, I don't know if you can see it, it pushes in. I don't know if you guys can see that. When you push the top, that tensioner goes in. So what I do, push that bottom tensioner in, squeeze, shoot the top of the tensioner in, and then you feel that top of that chain. You want that kind of tight, so squeeze that in. Snug these bolts up. Tighten it per spec. But like I said, since I'm on tuner transformation, I don't need a torque wrench. Because I don't want to go over budget, you know, these Datsun guys. $50 is over budget. Just pull that used chain out of the junkyard and use it. Like some clowns do. And that's pretty much it on that right there. I call this good. I know it's good myself, but if you want to check it, this is what we'll do. Put your gasket on. Use the Permatex 6B and blue stuff lightly. I always put some up in the corners, and I get a stick and I put some right on the outer edge so it doesn't leak. Remember your oil slinger, that's what I'll call it. Also make sure your worm gear is on correctly if you do take it off. This part on the outside here will be the flat side. So if you pull this back, take this key out, it'll be concave on the other side. So this part is flat. So make sure that worm gear is on there. Put your slinger and since we know where all the bolts are in the front cover, because I left the bolts in the front cover, to check final, if you just want to do a real quick bright link on the dimple, bright link on the dimple in the 2 o'clock position here, the V-notch is pretty much lined up. It doesn't matter now since everything's going to move together. So your front cover gasket kit will have a front seal. I had one once where this part was right, but the inner was the wrong size. So make sure you got the right one. That was wrong in the Felpro kit. If in doubt, get a Japanese front cover set. So since this was chromexed, you'll kind of come up an angle. Since if you're doing this in the car, remember you drop that pan so you don't tear that bottom oil pan gasket. Otherwise you'll be using this here. Just cut it and fill it in.